Hey YouTube, this is your Bean speaking. Today I'm going to show you the process behind my Gotham City Sirens piece. This piece is meant to resemble the cover of a graphic novel pertaining to the story of the origins of the Gotham City Sirens. But not my story. Oh no, definitely not my story. My story would be terrible. This story is by none other than my boyfriend Daniel. So you guys get to catch a break this week. Instead of listening to my horrible voice drone on, you get to listen to Daniel tell his story about the Gotham City Sirens. So without further ado, take it away, Daniel.
So I am by no means a huge DC or Marvel fan, but I have always been someone who loves villains, whether it be, superhero villains, Disney villains, whatever. And I have always loved the character and just the concept of Poison Ivy. And I really think it's a shame that she has never had a solid representation in a movie, because I believe with the special effects and things that we have today, she could be a really awesome character to see on screen. And I really think she could be a breakout role for an actress. So pretty much my origin story that I came up with, it does somewhat echo the Batman and Robin movie from 1997. If you have seen that, the train wreck that it was with Uma Thurman playing Poison Ivy. I remember being so excited for that movie because Poison Ivy was actually going to be in a movie, and then it ended up being a just absolutely terrible movie. But pretty much what my vision for Poison Ivy would be is the movie being set post Birds of Prey and the new Batman movie that's coming out in 2021, where Zoe Kravitz is playing Catwoman. Ideally, of course, Margot Robbie and Zoe Kravitz would return to their characters, and the idea of Poison Ivy would be she would kind of be an afterthought character. The movie would start kind of being centered around Harley and Catwoman, and then Poison Ivy is introduced kind of as a very small character that you don't see being a big part of the movie or of any significance until her actual emergence happens. So the way I see it is the scene would start out with Harley Quinn and Catwoman going to the Arkham Asylum to try to enlist help from the mad scientist who works in the greenhouse that is behind the Arkham Asylum. And Harley would know of this person and recommend to Catwoman that they reach out for his help because of her time at the asylum where she worked as a nurse and met the Joker. She obviously would have heard rumors about what he does in his human trials and his treatments and experiments on different people. So when Catwoman and Harley get there, they are snooping around the greenhouse pretty much, no one in sight, and then Harley sees an old co-worker of hers who used to be a nurse when she worked at the asylum, and that person would be Pamela Isley. Pamela is going to be portrayed at this point as a very average, nerdy, overall passive and forgettable, conservative woman. She has a lab coat, glasses, knee-length skirt, and she used to be a nurse but was chosen by the mad scientist to become his assistant for the human trials that he's conducting in the greenhouse. While looking around, though, Harley accidentally knocks over something that the scientist was working on. When it happens, Pamela panics because she knows that what she knocks over is sort of a toxin, and all the girls panic, and the fumes cause all three of them to pass out. When they come to, we find that the mad scientist has found them and tied up Catwoman and Harley because he's very cautious of their intrusion, and of course because he's crazy, he's going to perform some experiment on them at this point. He does not tie up Pamela, however, because she is his assistant. And I foresee this role of the mad scientist as like a very short, bald, middle-aged guy. I don't know exactly who I would pinpoint for playing him. Just a very dorky role. So the mad scientist at this point says to punish them for their intrusion, he will be using one of them to test his biggest experiment yet. But he's going to make Pamela choose which one, because he can obviously tell that there's some sort of relationship there with Harley and herself. Pamela, however, being the innocent, nerdy girl that she is, she cannot choose. It's clear that the chemistry between the mad scientist and Pamela is very awkward, and she's miserable in her role. So instead of choosing one of the girls to drink this potion that he wants them to drink, she decides to drink it herself. Of course, he freaks out, as well as Catwoman and Harley, and they pretty much watch her body react in a very gruesome way. Her veins pulsing, her body convulsing, just something to make that moment extremely memorable and almost like really hard to watch. And all they can all do is watch in horror as she seemingly dies before them. The scientist at this point forces both Catwoman and Harley to bury her body. Now, of course, as they're burying Pamela, they're trying to quietly converse how they're going to get out of this situation, because they're pretty much held captive now by the scientist. But after they bury Pamela, and the scientist is saying, what's going to happen to them at this point, you slowly will notice in the background the plants around rooting underneath the soil, because burying her activates the concoction that she drank, and the earth and plants around her take root into her grave and rise her up from the soil. When she emerges, her skirt, her lab coat, they're dirty and torn, in kind of a revealing way, to make her embody the kind of sultry character that Poison Ivy is supposed to be. Also, her veins are now a dark, vibrant green, and her skin a shade of green as well. Her hair a more vibrant red, so of course she would be a redhead to begin with, and then whatever this potion does to her just kind of exuberates that color and makes it a bright, bold red. And from there, that was my main goal of the scene, is to make it about her emergence and her character being revealed for the first time. At this point, it's up to you what would happen. I foresee her, of course, getting revenge on the scientist who has made her his assistant for however long, and then ultimately teaming up with Catwoman and Harley to become the Gotham City Sirens. So they went in expecting to get this nerdy little lab rat, and now they have pretty much this super villain in Poison Ivy to help them defeat the Batman. And of course she agrees to do this because Harley kind of inadvertently freed her from the mad scientist. Of course, seeing as I would picture this as a role with Margot Robbie and Zoe Kravitz, Ben and I have often talked about who we would see playing this iconic character. Some of our ideas that we've tossed around were people like Blake Lively, Kristen Bell, Natalie Dormer, Emma Roberts, Jane Levy, and my personal choice for this would be Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones. I honestly was pretty dead set on Blake Lively for a long time. I just pictured her in that role, and I wasn't familiar with Sophie Turner because Ben just recently got me into Game of Thrones. But now every time I see Sophie Turner on the screen, I'm like, that is just the person I picture for this role. Like her facial features, the red hair, I just feel like she could pull off both the nerdy, forgettable little lab rat, but also be able to transition into that sultry character that is Poison Ivy. overall, of course, I'm absolutely thrilled with Ben's drawing. It is amazing and everything I pictured it to be and more. And I'm very happy he let me be on this video.